Okay, so our final video, our final lesson for our physical geography is looking at deforestation and the issues surrounding that. Okay, so with that in mind, we need to know, why should we protect our rainforests in the first place? What's the value of them? Why are we cutting down our rainforests? What are the impacts of that, both positive and negative? And then how can we manage rainforests in a sustainable way? So first of all, why do we need rainforests? Okay, well, first of all, we need them because of medicinal purposes. So 25% of our medicine comes from tropical rainforest plants, and that's just the ones we know of. And that's absolutely crazy, isn't it? To think a quarter, 1 in 4 of those boxes in the background come from rainforest plants. So we cut down rainforests, we are massively screwing ourselves over. They act as a carbon sink, as we've talked about previously in this course. They absorb carbon dioxide, and with that in mind, they also help to regulate the Earth's climate and keep it a bit cooler. And they give us oxygen. The Amazon alone gives us 28% of our oxygen. 50% of all wildlife, or biodiversity is a better word, which means a range of species in the world, comes from rainforests. Okay, so if we cut down the rainforest, we're going to be 1 in 2 animals and plants down. And then finally, indigenous people still rely on rainforests and live there. For example, in Malaysia, there are 200,000 people that still live within the rainforest and live as indigenous tribes. That's just summed up there, which I've just said. So why are we cutting down the rainforests? Okay, so places like Malaysia and Indonesia, Brazil, these are the sorts of reasons they're cutting down their forest. Palm oil. Okay, and agriculture. Malaysia is the second largest exporter of palm oil in the world after Indonesia, but also other forms of agriculture. We talked about cattle and beef earlier in like Argentina, soya, which is used as cattle feed, okay, and to feed our chickens, like in this country. So we're cutting down huge amounts of rainforest just to grow these tiny little plants, but palm oil is a big one because it's in absolutely everything. We've got expansion of cities, or urban sprawl, or population pressure, whatever you want to call it. In low-income countries or sort of newly emerging economies that are getting richer, their populations are growing rapidly, especially in the cities, due to rural to urban migration, which is from the countryside to cities. And because of population increase, which is where the birth rate exceeds the death rate. Okay, so still lots of babies, lots of people moving there, and they're running out of space, so they have to cut down the rainforest to make room. Mining, mineral extraction, okay, people cut down the rainforest to get to things like gold, diamonds, iron ore, coal, oil and gas. They use explosives, they use massive pumps, and it's extremely, extremely bad for the environment, okay. Logging, obviously, Malaysia again is the largest, or was the largest exporter of tropical wood in the 1980s, and then hydroelectric power. So building a dam like the Bakun Dam in Malaysia, I keep using Malaysia, it's the case study we use at my school, so I just know it really well. It caused a massive flood behind it, but basically that allows the water to pass through here and give the country hydroelectric power. Okay, and again, how can we categorize these? Some of these are economic causes, some of these are social. What are the impacts then? Obviously, most of us are aware of the negatives. So we know, again, if we cut down our rainforest, it's going to enhance the greenhouse effect and lead to global warming. It's going to reduce biodiversity, have a species in mind, like the orangutan in Southeast Asia. Those indigenous people we talked about are going to be forced to leave, or they're going to drown. When that particular dam was built, the Bakun Dam, it resulted in 700 square kilometers of land flooded. Okay, that's trees destroyed, animals destroyed, people's being forced to leave their home. And finally, soil erosion. When you remove the rainforest, I said before, when you remove the trees, the roots aren't there to bind the soil, keep it together. So when it rains, that surface runoff washes the nutrients away, and it basically turns the soil into sand. Okay, and that's leading to desertification, the spreading of deserts. However, there are positives. There's a reason why they cut down the rainforest. It does provide millions of jobs around the world in mining and logging and agriculture. With that in mind, it provides income to families. If they've got more money, they've got more money to spend, they can start paying taxes, so it boosts the economy of the country. The country can therefore develop and become richer. So Malaysia, Indonesia are now newly emerging economies, predominantly because of deforestation. They were low-income countries before. And of course, dams are going to provide renewable energy, which is clean energy, and it's renewable, which means it's ongoing. Okay, so with this, I would get students again thinking of categories. Some of these are social, like people. Okay, some of them are economic, like jobs and income, and some are clearly environmental, like global warming and reducing biodiversity. And I'd be getting students to think about, what do you think is the most significant impact? What do you think is the best thing about deforestation? What do you think is the worst thing? What's going to have an impact on a local or national scale? What's going to have an impact on a global scale, like global warming? And all of this is like AO3 evaluation, rather than just saying this is bad because, this is extremely bad because it's going to have an impact on the long term. Okay, it's going to have a global impact. These are going to boost up our students' marks. Okay, so here's just an example from a few years ago. Study figure 8, 2 photographs showing different parts of a rainforest. Using figure 8 and your own understanding, explain how development in tropical rainforests creates economic advantages, but at a cost to the environment. Again, bug the question. Box explain, underline figure 8, own understanding, development, rainforests, economic advantages, cost, environment. Glance at the mark scheme. I literally draw a pair of eyes here, okay, to show that I'm looking at 6 marks. So straight away I'm thinking 6 marks, 2 paragraphs. What are my 2 paragraphs about? Probably economic advantages, it brings in money, but negative environmental impacts. And I have to use the figure. So what can I actually see? This is mining. You could talk about the positives, the economic impact, the jobs that's providing, the money coming into the country, boosting development. Or you could talk about the negatives, the huge amounts of deforestation, the lack of carbon sink, the species of plants, the people that have been forced to leave their homes. Likewise, this shows soil erosion. Okay, this is all because the trees have been cut down, the roots aren't there to bind the soil, so all the heavy rain is literally washing all the soil away, leaving these like gullies behind. Okay, so that's soil erosion, which could lead to desertification. So you'd have to make those links. That's not easy. And with that, you've got to talk about the pros, the economic advantages, and the cons, the negatives to the environment. So what are we doing about it? Okay, this word sustainable was already propped up today. It's one of the most important geography words, and it literally means meeting the needs of the people of today without impacting future generations. And that can be socially, economically, and environmentally. And this is what we're doing. Okay, here's some strategies. We're going to talk about all of these quickly. We have ecotourism. So some people, instead of now cutting down rainforest, they're using the rainforest to encourage tourists, which obviously brings in income. It's very sustainable. It's in line with nature. The locals get a job. The suppliers of the hotels also benefit because they're supplying food and things like that. We're not cutting down the rainforest for this. It's in line with nature. Therefore, it is sustainable. It uses wood that's already fallen, for example. Okay, so it's socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable. We can educate people, teach them about the value of the rainforest so that they don't want to cut it down. We can set up conservation and protected areas to limit exploitation. Here's just one example, okay, in the Amazon, where some of these places are protected by the state or the country. So that limits the deforestation. However, a lot of illegal activity does still happen there. Selective logging. Instead of clearing the whole forest with machines and methods such as slash and burn, where they literally just set it on fire, we are selectively choosing trees, just like they are here, okay? They study it for 2 years before they cut it down. Felling is a good term for cutting down. They only take the most valuable trees, and they cut them down in such a way that when they fall, they don't destroy too many other trees around it. Of course, some of them will still get destroyed, but generally it limits the damage to the wider area. And they replant the tree straight after. That's what they're doing here, planting new trees. We call that afforestation. Okay, so a really clever method. These are brilliant. Debt for nature swaps. So a lot of countries owe other countries money. So, for example, Brazil owed the USA a lot of money, and the USA said, you know what? Don't give me that money back. Instead, the £13.5 million you owe us, instead of paying it back, I want you to put that into protecting the Amazon rainforest. Okay, so it takes a lot of agreement, and not everyone sticks to it, but it is a good idea, and it's called a debt for nature swap. And finally, international agreements. So countries agreeing, just like the Paris Agreement with global warming earlier. This is like the FSC label. You might have seen this on some timber, on some fences, on some wood. And it just means that the wood has been sustainably sourced. Okay, we can trust it. It's not been given through illegal logging. And finally, here's just a little 2-marker to finish off. Study figure 9, a photograph of part of an ecotourism scheme in part of the Amazon rainforest. Using figure 9, suggest how ecotourism can help in managing tropical rainforests sustainably. So with that in mind, what can I see in the photo? I can see some wood. I can see the fact that there's still nature growing around it, so they haven't cut down the rainforest. Okay, I talk about the fact it's going to bring in jobs for locals as well, so it's economically sustainable. And I only really need one linked sentence here because it's 2 marks. Okay, suggest how, give me reasons for, and I would literally just say, in figure 9, I can see that, and then I would just literally talk about that and say, this is sustainable because, or this helps to manage the rainforest sustainably because, okay? And that literally would be it. 2 marks, 2 minutes, done, move on. Okay, that is everything. I hope you've enjoyed this course. I hope you're going to benefit massively. You've made lots of notes and paused it in places. I am going to make 6 human geography lessons as well in the next few weeks. So hopefully if you've enjoyed these ones and benefited, you can purchase those ones as well. Good luck with everything. And please just drop me a message if you've got any questions. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Take care.